Blessings, everybody. This is Saoirse doing another video review for PaganPages. And this time I'm doing a beautiful book. It's called Practical Alchemy, The Guide to the Great Work by Brian Contoir. And I'll read you a little bit about who he is and what his background is. Brian Contoir is an alchemist, artist, and award-winning filmmaker. He is a contributor to Pear Alchemy, a journal of Hermetic Arts and Sciences, the Alchemical Bulletin of Frater Albertus, and the author of the recently published Emerald Tablet, which includes his translations of and commentary on the earliest Arabic and Latin versions of the seminal alchemical text. His films have been screened at MoMA, Sundance Film Festival, HBO, PBS, and other international venues. The book itself was first published in 2006, and a second edition was put forth this year in 2021, and it's by Wiser Books. You can learn more about their books at redrealwiser.com, and this is only 128 pages. You would think that you'd be able to breeze through a book like this that's so short, but the information is very deep and requires a lot of study. He's got the book broken up into 3 different parts, and part 1 is definitions and foundational information. Part 2 is tools and techniques and substances that you use for the practice of alchemy. And part 3 lists some appendices with a chock full of information. So I'm going to read to you some of Brian's writings. And this is in the chapter overview of alchemy. Alchemy is a word that has come to mean in the popular imagination the changing of lead into gold. It's true that many historical alchemists have pursued this goal, each with a different motivation. For some, transmutation was an outward sign, dramatic, yet only a sign of inner attainment. For others, it was a demonstration of profound insight into nature. For quite a few others, it was a dream of fast money. Wouldn't we all love that? And for some, it was a way to bring about peace and prosperity for the many poor and sick. Here's how some alchemists describe alchemy. During the 13th century, an alchemist named Gerber said, "This science treats of the imperfect bodies of minerals and teacheth how to perform them." Paracelsus in 1540 said, "Alchemy means to carry to its end something that has not yet been completed." Antoine Joseph Pertiny in 1758 had a little bit more to say. He said, "Alchemy is a science and art of making affirmative powder which transmutes the imperfect metals into gold, and which is a useful universal remedy for all the natural illnesses of man, of animals, and of plants." Some early alchemists were scientists that were trying to figure out how things worked, chemically, what you combined with what and what it created. Some were trying to turn lead into gold for riches, for their employers, for the royalty, for themselves. But some were learning about medicines, and we have them to thank. Obviously, medical understanding has built more from generation to generation. And some alchemists use the funding from their sponsors to help them to learn things that we have certainly benefited from. Okay, so I'm going to go through separate chapters and talk about different things. In part 1, in chapter 1, they talk about the aspects of alchemy. And let me show you this. They talk about the elements of fire, air, water, and earth. He's got a nice chart here of what the different meanings are. Some of the original meanings go back to St. Thomas Aquinas, Plato, very, very old meanings. We talk about what the 4 elements mean to us today, but reading in this book, you hear about the history of who said what about it, and so on and so forth. He talks a little bit more about the elemental qualities. Fire is hot or dry. Its primary essence is hot. Secondary is dry. All moisture is consumed by the heat. And water, for example, its primary quality is wet. This is the higher of the passive qualities, of course. And then it's also hot, secondary. This is due to its closeness to fire. And it's interesting to see how they define all of this. They talk about the planetary spheres. Each of the planets is defined and what it influences. For example, Venus is warm and moist. It warms moderately but moistly, humidifies like the moon. It's feminine. It stands for affection, love, and beauty. The principle of attraction and the body, it ascribes to the neck, kidneys, ovaries, veins, and their circulation. Its element is copper and its day is Friday. On the zodiac, the second and fourth houses are ruled by Venus, as is Taurus and Libra. The deities that are ascribed to Venus are Venus, Aphrodite, and the goddess Isis. Now, there's one chapter I'm going to read a little bit more about. This is very important. Chapter 6 is about the emerald tablet. It's the very heart of alchemy. It is considered to be one of the oldest alchemical texts. Legend has it that it was found near Hebron in a cave that was the tomb of Hermes, called Thoth by the Egyptians. Hermes or Thoth is the god of writing, science, and math. Depending on the version, the tomb was discovered by Zara, the wife of Abraham, Alexander the Great, or Apollonius of Tyana. The emerald tablet is just that, a tablet of emerald, upon which, engraved in Phoenician, is a teaching on alchemy by Hermes. After its discovery, it is thought to have made its way from the Greeks into Islam via Syria. It's very, very old. So he's got the Phoenician words written here, which I can't read, and then over here he's got an English translation, and I'll read a little bit to you about this. Oh, but first I do that. He says, this is one of the roots of alchemy. Read it, study it, track down its various sources, read it again, then meditate on it. Memorize it, and you will always have it with you to refer to as the work progresses. At the very least, a copy of the Tabla Samargandia, or Emerald Tablet, should be tacked above your workbench and read and contemplated before working. Meditate on it line by line, word by word, and it will gradually open itself to you as you gain understanding from the actual work. So this is hardcore, a very important publication in alchemy. And if you're going into alchemy, he says this is something that you really need to be proficient with. And I'm just going to read parts of it. That which is above is that which is above. And that which is above is that which is below. So as above, so below, to accomplish the miracles of the one. And that's capitalized. So to me, that means God. As above, so below. We talk about that a lot. Its father is the sun, its mother is the moon. The wind carried in its belly. Its nurse is the earth. The father of every miracle and the whole world is here. Its power is complete, if it will be turned into earth. You shall separate earth from fire, the subtle from the gross, gently and with much ingenuity. It ascends from earth to heaven and again descends into the earth and receives the powers of the things above and below. Thus you shall have the glory of the whole world. Obscurity shall fly from you. Thus the world was created. Therefore I am called Hermes Trismegistus, I think I pronounced that right, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. It has completed that which I had to say about the operation of the sun. That's the end of part 1, and he wants you to read that emerald tablet and study it and understand it. In chapter 7, that starts part 2, and tools and substances and techniques are outlined and practices. So there's the basics of alchemy. He defines things like what cohabitation means, what crystallization means, and what distillation means. He talks about how to prepare your materials to work with them. He talks about how to do distillation, the purification of salts, how you crystallize them and do sublimation. Some salts, when heated, do not pass through a liquid phase but turn directly to gas. And he talks about all about how to do that. He talks about how to work with water and alcohol, and then how to work with herbs. He lists how to make tinctures. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip all the way past all of that to chapter 17. He has a parting contemplation on transmutation, and I'm going to read most of that to you. With your mind steadily and calmly focused, divide matter using whatever system is the most familiar, whether contemporary physics or the elements of the Greeks. Take an object and divide it. Keep dividing it with your mind until you cannot divide anymore. Enter there, rest your mind there, and begin to explore. Staying there, look around for the object in which you began. Does it really exist? Once you have brought the object to a point where it has been broken apart one step too many and been lost, you have arrived at the point which transmutation becomes possibility. Is this the prima materia? What I have presented is a very brief, condensed outline of the alchemical path. Many gates and side paths have been pointed out, and some names have been dropped. There are many possibilities for further work. It is important to examine the world with your own eyes, verify things with your own experience, persist and follow the dictum, ora, lege, relege, laborta, et inventes. I don't know what that means, but that is truly the method of alchemy. I include here a fragment from a collection of mystical odes by the great Islamic theosophist. Ibn al-Arabi is something to aspire to and necessary to the great work. O marvel, a garden amidst fires! My heart has become capable of every form. It is a pasture for gazelles, and a convent for Christian monks, and a temple for idols, and the pilgrim's Kaaba, and the tablets of the Torah and the book of the Koran. I follow the religion of love. Whatever way love's camels take, that is my religion and my faith. Not revealed in the books, but in the practice. What he's getting at in this is alchemy is not just about going poof, poof, poof. That's just chemistry. It's about changing yourself intellectually and spiritually and understanding the way that things work and our place in it. And the appendices, he talks more about laboratory safety, which is very important. Think and use your common sense is one of the things that he says. Different lists of equipment, different ways to do distillation. There's photographs in there. Plants and planets, and there are their English name and their Latin names. He's got a pretty extensive list of that. And then there's a bibliography. If you are at all interested in alchemy, most especially if you are getting started out on your path, this is a really good book that talks about the history of it and the concepts of it and different techniques to use. The author and one of the people who wrote in the foreword say that they wish when they had gotten started in alchemy, something like this had existed for them. As a guide for new people instead of having to figure it all out on their own. And obviously they want you to figure out a lot on your own, but they're just lending a helping hand. So this is a wonderful publication from Brian, who is an award-winning artist who does incredible things and is a man of many gifts and skills, and I highly recommend this. And this has been Saoirse with another video review for Pagan Pages. Blessed be.